everyone, I'm Kelly from Culikid, and today we're taking it back to the basics and learning how to boil pasta. So for this, you will need the pasta you're making and some salt, a colander and a measuring cup, and a pot for your pasta and a pot for your sauce. So let's get started. Okay, so before we get started with cooking, always make sure you have washed your hands, and I've already done that so we can move on to the next step. When we're making pasta, first we're going to decide what we're making and how much. So I'm going to make these small shells here for one person. And the reason we need to do that first is because we need to figure out the pot that we are going to use. So for one person, pasta serving is about 2 ounces, which for this is about half a cup to a third of a cup. So I have my measuring cup here for a half a cup, and I'm going to pour the pasta in. So now that we see how much pasta we're using, we know what pot we need. So this can very easily fit in this pot, so that's a good size for us. I also have this fettuccine here to show you. That different sizes will call for a different pot. So this, you can see, would not fit in that pot, so we would need something taller or wider. Now that we know what pasta we're making and what pot we're going to use, we can fill the pot with water and bring it to a boil. So I have this pretty big pot compared to the amount of pasta, so you don't need to fill it all the way to the top. I'll probably fill it halfway or maybe even a little less. So you want to make sure that after your water has boiled, that your pasta is completely covered. Okay, and we have plenty of water in here for our pasta. You always want to have more rather than less because, like I said, you want it to cover your pasta. And it doesn't need to be an exact amount because you're going to pour out the water later. So now that we have our pot on the stove, we're going to turn the burner up to high heat in order to get the water to boil. And while we're waiting for it to boil, we will add some salt. This also doesn't need to be exact, but you should make sure to salt your water heavily so that way you give a lot of flavor to the pasta. Okay, and we know our water is boiling when there are a lot of bubbles coming to the surface. So depending on how hot your stove is and how quickly it heats up and how much water you have will depend on how long that takes. The less water, the faster it will take to boil. If you had a huge pot with a lot of water, that would take a lot longer. So we're gonna wait a couple minutes and check back and move on to our next step when we have boiled water. While our water is boiling, let's figure out how long our pasta will need to cook. So this is different for everybody, so you should get your pasta box and we'll figure out the time together. So either on the back or sometimes on the side, the box will tell you how long you need to cook your pasta. This box tells me how long I need to cook it for what's called al dente, firm, and tender. So al dente is when our pasta is a little bit firm when you chew it, and then tender is going to be when it's nice and mushy and easy to chew. So choose whichever one you like. I like al dente, so I'm going to go with the time that it says here, which for mine is 10 minutes. Your box might not be as specific as this. It might just say 10 to 12 minutes. If you like it firmer, go with the one that's lowest. And if you like it more tender, go with the one that's highest. And that's what you will set your timer for. Okay, so now our water is rapidly boiling. We have a lot of big bubbles coming to the surface, so we're ready to add our pasta. So take your pre-measured pasta and just pour it in. And turn your heat down to medium. And now we'll set our timer. So like I said, my box says to cook it for 10 minutes. So I have my timer going, and when that goes off, we will drain the pasta. The different shapes of pasta take different amounts of time to cook all the way through, so make sure you're checking your box and making sure that you're cooking your pasta to the right amount. Now, while this is cooking, we will take our colander and put it into the sink. And so when it's done, we're going to just dump our pasta right in there. And we will also start our sauce. So I'm just gonna put a low flame under this. And heat up our sauce. So I have some tomato sauce in here. You can put any jarred sauce, Alfredo, anything like that. If you're doing something like a pesto, then you don't need to heat it up. And then so you can just wait for your pasta to be done. Okay, so our timer just went off and we're ready to drain our pasta. So grab a pot holder because this might be hot. And if you made a lot more and it's too heavy, you might need a second one to grab the pot over here too, which would be very hot. So we're going to carefully take this, and we've got our colander in the sink, and we're going to just pour the whole thing into the colander. And you come back and turn off your stove. And we'll just shake it around a little bit to make sure all that water drains out. See, we have our serving of pasta. So we're just about ready to eat, but first we want to put something on our pasta. So for you, it might be the sauce you just heated up. It might be a cold sauce like the pesto. Maybe you just want some like butter and grated cheese, something like that. Either way, you can put the pasta into a bowl or back into the pot. And then you'll take your sauce, whatever it is, and pour that into the pot too. And be sure to turn off that burner as well. Now we'll just give it a mix. Okay, and we've got our pasta all coated with the sauce. And now we can take our bowl that we're going to serve it in and just scoop it in. And there we go. There's our pasta. Enjoy.